So my entire life, I wanted to be a mom. It was probably the most non-negotiable part of who I was. And in September of 2014, I became pregnant with my son. Well, I didn't know it was a boy at the time, but I became pregnant with my son. And in May of 2015, I had a baby, and his name is Rex, and he's awesome. And that started a whole new world for me about being a single mom by choice. I should back up a little bit and tell you that I have a very busy career. I have a very involved, very busy, dynamic career, and I work in student activities programming at a university. And that job, up until the point of May 2015, I worked probably 60 hours a week. And so I was a very busy person. I had a big staff that I worked with. I still am, I should say, was. And because of that, I knew that I had to really work on the work-life balance. I knew that was going to be something really important, and I knew that's something that I had to work on because I had someone who depended on me all the time, and there was nobody else there to catch me. There was no one else there to catch him. It was just going to be he and I on this journey. And so I prayed a lot about that as well, about how to best successfully navigate having my family and having my career, which meant a lot to me. I worked really hard for my career, and I really enjoyed it, and I wanted to be able to keep doing it and do it well to the level that I expected. So work-life balance is tough, and I think anyone's going to tell you that that is a tough thing to overcome and something to figure out how to balance. And so there's a couple things that I do that I really feel like make it successful for me. The first thing is that I use my village. I think that's so important. And your village expands and changes whenever you have a child, especially when you're by yourself. People you thought you could depend on, maybe you don't now, but then all of a sudden new people are graced into your life that you can depend on. And so really utilizing that village to help to sit with my son after he goes to bed, if I've got to come back to work or things like that is what I really work on. But probably the biggest thing that I do is that I budget time for myself, and I budget time for sitters, for babysitters. Because I think it's important that you take care of yourself as well. I can't be a good mom if I'm not a good person, if I'm not balanced in my own life, if I'm not really taking care of myself, both internally and externally. And so I really feel like that's important to take time for yourself and to budget that time and find that if you can, find those finances or find people who will help you to give you some time away. Also, something that I feel like is important is to find time for you and your child to do things together. And so whether that is going to a park on a Saturday morning, whether that is taking time to read a book, whatever it is, taking time for you and your child or children to really sit down together and have some quality time together. Because as single moms, we really do everything. And so you don't always have that time to take because you've got to clean the house and you've got to do the laundry and you've got to work and you've got to make meals. But finding that 10 minutes every day, morning or night, to just really take time for you and your child is so important, because the family is just so important. And that's the family you're building, whether or not you have a partner or not. It's really you and your child and your children. It's important to keep that family unit as intact as possible. Something I heard recently was that God gives grace, you don't earn it. And so I think as single moms, a lot of times we feel like that we have to pay back people who help us, or we have to go out of our way to do things for other people when they do things for us. And we try to do that when we can, but really God gives you grace. And that grace can come in the form of people wanting to help you. And so taking that help and accepting that help without feeling like you have to pay that help back is really a big part of how I keep myself balanced. And I do what I can when I can, but sometimes I just say thank you. And yes, I will accept your grace, and I will take the help if I need it and when I need it. I think the most important part to remember is that you are enough, and that you're enough for your work, and you're enough for your life, and you're enough for your children. And that is really tough, and I know that's hard to hear, and I think it's even sometimes hard to say, because we feel like we have to do everything, we have to be everything for everyone. But the fact of the matter is that your life changes when you have children, and your life definitely changes when you become a single mom. And so you have to just go with that and roll with that and know that it's not a loss of your former self, but it's an exciting part of your new self. And everybody around you will learn that you will now become enough for them and for what you can give them. And so don't feel guilty and don't feel sad about not being able to put all of your life in balance, but instead find a way to be happy with where you are in every stage of your life. And so for me, of course, it is God first, then my family, and then my work. And that's the kind of how I prioritize things. But once everyone in my staff and my crew kind of knew that, it made it a lot easier for me to be able to accept that message and just say I can do these things and I can't do these things. So you are definitely enough. Take care of yourself, take care of your family, and really it will be okay.